All right, so the question I'm asking my friends today is, where do we go from here? Crystal Palace beats Man United 4-0 at the Selhurst Park. I mean, the Selhurst Park is one of the favorite grounds of Man United. But it looks like for 3 seasons in a row, including now, this one is an embarrassing loss. Welcome to United and Everything Football Podcast. It's great to have you every single time with us here on this beautiful podcast. I'm joined today by Nathan Kwao and Kwame Chukwuesiako. You should see the faces of my friends. Nathan!
Hello, Kwame. You know, coincidentally, if I were an account man, I'd be a Kwame too, because I'm a Saturday board, but I'm not.
So this is a triple K.
Yeah.
Kwame. Why? What is your problem?
I have no words.
You have no words. But you have a podcast.
I have no words.
You should have words. You better have words. Guys, okay, so let's make a quick turnaround, but remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We see a lot of you watching, but please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and help us. Let's grow this community together. You are part of us. To all members of this community who have been with us consistently, one day I'll bring a tall list. Those who have been in our comment section, we really appreciate you so much for being a part of this beautiful community. Let me make a quick turnaround. When we come back, I'll make sure they answer the question. Where do we go from here? All right, thank you very much. This is the United and Everything Football Podcast. I'm reminding you once again, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. I'll start with Nathan. Nathan, where do we go from here?
Thank God you're starting with Nathan, you know.
Wow. Where do we go from here? It's difficult to answer because I'm thinking of different things all at the same time. Okay. So I think United have got 3 more games to play.
Yeah.
Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton.
Yes.
And they'll have to find performances to close out the season, because this performance against Palace was an absolute embarrassment of a performance.
Yeah.
And the more I think about that performance, all kinds of things start coming into mind.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them may sound very conspiratorial, but I guess it's because we've seen a lot of these scenarios before.
Yeah.
Scenario number 1, if you ask me, this reminds me of Ole's last game in charge.
Against Watford.
At Watford. 4-1. Everything felt very odd and strange. It was like nobody wanted to go and perform the next day or 2 days after Ole was a goner. And I think about that performance at Crystal Palace this evening, and I just can't shake off the feeling that, of course, Ten Hag won't be sacked tonight.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I get the feeling that this performance might push the people at Ineos to make a decision on Eric Ten Hag. If they had any doubts, this performance will concretize some of those doubts, and then they will be forced to make a decision. If you ask me personally, a few weeks ago, you asked me if I wanted Eric Ten Hag to stay, and I said yes, I wanted him to stay. But if I were a person making a decision, somebody would say it's based on the result.
Yeah.
But I think for everybody's sanity, if I had to make that call, I think I'd end the relationship so everybody goes their way and you start everything again, you know. Now, the other bit of what I think is that, again, it's tied to this Eric Ten Hag exit, you know, tangent I'm on.
Yeah.
When I looked at some of the performances I saw tonight, there were performances of players who were at their wits' end and didn't know what it is they were doing. So it's either they didn't understand the instructions, or they were sick and tired of the instructions and they just jogged out to do whatever it is they wanted to do the manager in, they check out and see what happens. The third thing I think about is everybody is on the same page. It was just a culmination of the entire season where one stubborn decision after stubborn decision taken by Eric Ten Hag. And we could see that United were a team that were wide open. They were easy to play through. Yeah. And if you wanted, if you wanted any more damning evidence, I think all our viewers should go and read that article that the Athletic put out, where they spoke to several video analysts at several Premier League clubs, where they all said almost the same thing, that United were so easy to play against. If you figured out their structure, you were good to go. So I think of these three things all at the same time, and all of them are okay. Two of them are true, one very conspiratorial. But if you ask me, ultimately, where do United go from here? Like I said, they'll have to ride out the season and end the season well, if for nothing at all, just for pride's sake. Play those games with a lot of intent. But personally, I think if Erik ten Hag, if I was in his corner, I don't think I'm in his corner anymore. I think that performance tonight just lost me completely. And I'd love to see the back of Erik ten Hag. I think United will have to end that relationship very quickly and start to think about what it is they want to do, because I don't know how this team will look like next season. And if Ten Hag is as stubborn as he has been this season, I'm afraid that next season will look really, really, really horrible. And maybe I'm reaching, maybe I'm sounding a bit crazy, but Erik ten Hag lost me this evening, and I think United will have to end that relationship when the season comes to an end.
Eventually, Kwame, I'm coming to you. You just can't escape. Eventually, I'm with you. Kwame, let me get to you. 7 signings from Erik ten Hag started this game. We hear a lot of people say, and players have down tools and they are dead woods, but these are 7 signings from the coach, who has been given a lot of power within the club to, make certain decisions with regards to the players that come in. How much of this blame do we apportion to Ten Hag? And that was a Ten Hag team on the pitch. Kwame.
We've been here so many times where we've said on numerous occasions that most of his signings have not been good enough. We do not need to run through all his signings to know only a couple of them have been actual hits. And even with those players, they are injury prone, as we've seen over the course of the season. So let's not just sit here and say these players are great players, yet the manager is not able to get the best out of them. We've said on numerous occasions that if he did have proper football people around him making proper football decisions, some of those players won't be Manchester United players. They should never have been Manchester United players in the first place. Anthony shouldn't be playing for Manchester United. Johnny Evans shouldn't be back at the football club. You get what I'm trying to say? Eriksen was on his last legs when we signed him. Casemiro, we signed him for 60, 70 million odd pounds when we should have gotten a younger defensive midfielder. We can go through the entire list and go like, you know what? The recruitment under this manager, with all the power and authority that he had, has not been good enough. So for those who go with that tangent, I don't entirely buy into it, but that's his team out there. He's pointing once again to the injuries in the squad, the backline, blah, blah, blah. But then what I do feel like he's gotten to the point where we saw tonight, like Nathan said, it looked like this team had given up on him in a way. Some of these players have checked out. At the end of the day, these players are assets of the football club. No matter what happens, they know that even if the manager is sacked, they are still assets to the football club and they will remain there. Unless, of course, Ineos want to do a ruthless wholesale, a Todd Boyle, and then decide to clear out everybody and bring in an entirely different set of players. Some of these players whom have been purchased on silly money will still remain at the football club. And that's one of the issues, the perks that I have with the kind of signings that we've made over the years. The player power and everything that's going on over the years. Players ultimately sort of decide when they want a manager out. Because I feel that's what's happening now. Some players are reading into the press. They are seeing everything that's just been written. They are heading in a direction that they don't really see any end road, and they've just decided, you know what? We've tried and tried and tried and tried over the course of the season, and we can try no more. So that's just about all we can get. I had written off the rest of the season, as I've been saying, that, you know what, it's just about a cup final. But there was a way to get yourself prepared for a cup final.
Yep.
You know, in terms of the way you perform leading up to it. But then this team seems to be heading in a direction that points to a very sorry end to the season. A very, very sorry and ugly end to the season, which I find extremely disappointing. But then it is what it is. We've been here before. We've been here about 3 or 4 times, actually.
Yeah.
This is like I'd always say, it's like a broken record. We are stuck in a loop. We are just going around in circles, and we come back to the same point. Ultimately, I will still go by my tangent and say, if things don't change drastically, beyond always sacking the manager and expecting things to be different, if we don't change things from the very top all the way down, all we are going to do is bring in another manager, a very good manager. That's what we always do. Bring in good managers. And then they'll give us the usual new manager bounce, a season and a half, and everything goes to shit. And then we come back and sit here again and would say, sack the manager. So I think that's the thing I can look forward to now, the serial changes that is going on in and around the football club for some sort of hope and motivation that we may have a brighter future.
Nathan, my questions are all missing. I just don't know where to even go from here. I mean, it's one of those games where you feel like I have seen it all. I mean, it's like that Brighton 4-0 at the end of the season, at the tail end of the season, 2 seasons ago when Ralph Ragnick was in charge. It's exactly the same thing that happened. I mean, we go through this. Nathan, if you are part of Ineos, how do you kickstart a whole process of restoration for Man United after 11 years? Because this is going to be Ineos's first ever transfer season. Okay. And what the Ineos team have been doing is very evident to all. Clear all the people at the top, because they've made their diagnosis and have seen that the environment around coaches who have been around hasn't been working. So, but how do you start this whole process? I mean, you have the people in charge right now. How do you start this whole rebuilding process? You've made it clear that it will be good for you, or it will be good for all parties when Erik ten Hag goes his way, because it looks as if things have just... How are you going to start this whole process if you are part of Team Ineos?
Well, I think they've already started it a bit with the human resource in terms of some of the people they've brought in to fill some of the positions. So Will Cox, they are still doing the tango with Newcastle over Dan Ashworth. I think that will be done eventually.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The next important thing is sitting around the table and deciding what kind of football do we want Manchester United to play. Because I feel it's at the heart of everything. What should be the team's footballing identity? What should be the culture? Now, if you identify that style that you want, then you find a manager who can take that style and run with. And then that style should influence the kind of players you get. And we've seen that template being implemented right around the world. Manchester City are next door neighbors. You've seen what they've identified. This is what they want to do. They got a manager in. The manager aligned with that bright idea, and then they managed to get players who would fit into, that. So that's what I expect Manchester United to do. The next thing is actually buy football players who can actually get jobs done on the pitch. Not necessarily players with reputations or huge names or heavy price tags, because we've seen in the last few years that those with the biggest price tags are not necessarily the best players. You need to find a player who's a rough diamond somewhere, but you look at his profile and say, player X can do a job for me. He fits in here. You bring him in, and then the project gets off the ground. So that's what I would do. But the most important thing, or one of the most important things, is that there needs to be a certain understanding that there is a rebuild. it may come with some success. It may not come with some success initially. When there's that broad understanding, it helps the transition because there's no expectation, there's no pressure on players. And we've seen at Chelsea where on the face of it, they are going a transition, but there's this constant pressure on the manager to deliver certain achievements, to meet certain targets. And once you start to put pressure on a manager who has a young team or a very new team to work with, he will have issues because on one hand, he knows this is a project. He knows he has to take his time, but then he has to win. So there will be pressure. And sometimes people can't thrive in that pressure situation where they know that it's a high stakes place. If they fail, their necks are on the chopping board. So I think that away from all this business of philosophy, culture, players, data, scouting, all of that, there needs to be that understanding at the heart of everything that this is a rebuild. We need to take our time and achieve moderate success progressively. So in 2 or 3 years, when it comes together, eventually you are ready to actually take on the big guns, not do a title challenge 1 year, and then in the second year, everybody's tired, everybody's fatigued, players can't bear the pressure anymore, and then they start to wilt and crack. So I feel that's how they should progress. Another thing I haven't mentioned will be, and I think Kwame mentioned it, the ruthless clear out. Because if there's one problem I've had with Manchester United for many years, is this almost sentimental approach to getting rid of players. Almost like the club does not want to let players go. A player is past his prime. They don't want to let the player go. It's one extension after the other. And then the player becomes a burden you can't offload. I think United need to understand they are at a place where they need to cut their losses because even if they don't want to, FFP rules require that their finances need to make sense. So they need to start to think critically about how to manage the wage books. If it means getting players off, get players off and not be sad about letting somebody go so that there's a bigger aim that must be achieved. I feel United they said too long on making hard calls. And some of the consequences are the things we are seeing now where players have been at the club for X number of years. They are past their prime. You are bringing back Johnny Evans. You are splashing cash on players who are 30 and above and have a short shelf life. So I believe that they can do all of these things at the right time, in the right quantities. It should come together. It will be long and painful, I know, because when you look at Man City, it doesn't look like they'll stop winning anytime soon. Arsenal look like they are on the cusp of winning. Aston Villa look like they are ready for the big time. Spurs will give it another crack. Liverpool would want to remind everybody that they are as good as they were under Klopp, under a new manager. So it will be tough, it will be painful. But if United can bite the bullet and make those necessary decisions very quickly, I feel in about 2 to 3 years, it will come together eventually.
Eventually, that's the timeline Sir Jim Ratcliffe has given. I mean, it looks as if he's steady. He says it's not like a light switch that you put it on and off and then everything comes back to life. It's very difficult for anyone to, because this is about 11 years of rot. Kwame, I want us to go into that. The meetings that Sir Jim Ratcliffe have been having with the United team over the last couple of weeks, where he's making some revelations and sending strong emails, and these emails keeps getting leaked to the media about how dirty certain places are and how untidy certain places are, and asking people to get back to work. I mean, it speaks of the general. I don't want to get into this thing and rant, but it speaks of the general institutional failure over the last 11 years post Sir Alex Ferguson. Now, if you walk into any institution, okay, you must see things working. And it just doesn't end with it, or start and end with a football club. It starts with the whole institution. And it looks as if people are just sitting in there and are doing absolutely nothing. People have been working from home since 2020, and we are in 2024. It has to take this new owner to call people to come back to work. This is the institution, Manchester United. I'm not going to rant. Kwame, let me hear you.
No, but you're ranting already. Just finish.
No, continue. Otherwise, I'll say things that YouTube will just take this.
No, don't block you. I say the United job over the past 11 years, right? I would say 11 years because prior to that, the 8 years prior to that, things were covered up by the great Alex Ferguson and Gail. Peter Kenyon comes into it a bit. Those guys were the institution, so we couldn't see the owners for who they are. I say Manchester United under the Glazers is like a government job in Ghana.
Yeah.
The money belonged to nobody because these people did not put their money into the club.
Yeah.
They didn't buy the club with their own cash. They don't invest into the football club with their own money. And I think everybody there in every office recognizes this. Agents who bring their players into the club recognize this. And all they were doing and all they have done is just be comfy and just chop money, basically. But a new sheriff is in town. A new sheriff is in town. He is like that private owner who has bought a government entity and walks in there and sees the rot for what it is and says, I'm not standing for any of this rubbish. I have to protect my investments. I have to protect my money. You don't put 1.5 to 2 billion pounds into something and don't police it.
Yeah.
So he's walked into there and I'm sure he's shocked as to the rot. He may have heard it from the outside, but once you get inside, then you know how bad things are. Our problems aren't just on the football pitch. What you see on the football pitch is a reflection of the rot in the entire football club. You see that reflection every Saturday or every Wednesday or maybe every Thursday when we're playing Europa League football, basically. And so nothing should come as a surprise. Ineos have a hell of a job to do. A hell of a job. Wiping things clean from the very top to the very bottom. Making us a football club again. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of courage. And they have to have more hits with their decisions than misses. Yeah. That is now my main issue. Because they have taken over football clubs before. Nice did not go particularly well. Lausanne hasn't gone exceedingly well. But I just want to feel and believe that there will be lessons taken from those two clubs. Manchester United is a totally different animal. They should know that. It's a beast of a football club. And when you have a beast like that, which is rotten, as it is, with people using power play of the media to leak information and all that, what it means is you have to walk in there and make people uncomfortable. By saying that, what I mean is you have to kick certain people out as ruthless as you can. In the offices, in the reception. I don't want to go into Cathy. I say Cathy sitting at the reception. I don't trust her. I don't even trust that old woman. Not to talk about other young stuff. Everybody must go. Everybody's part of the rush. We have to flip the whole club upside down and change everything. So yes, we can talk about the coach. We can talk about the football players on the football pitch. But changing the culture of a football club goes beyond 22 players or 10 coaches at a football club. I think it's the entire thing. It's the whole thing. They've started on a good note with certain appointments, but the quicker these people come in and the quicker a lot of other people go out, the better for us. So I've cut your rant short. I've tried to make it as civil and as clean as possible.
Thank you for coming in for me because I had a lot of my chat. I mean, in our private chats, we've been talking about this whole thing about the institution, the culture, and all of that. It's so easy. I mean, I'm not going to immune or shield Eric Ten Hag of all the things that have happened. But I'll keep, Nathan, one of the things that keep coming into my head is the statements by Sir Jim Ratcliffe about what sort of environment we've had over the period, which hasn't been great for coaches because Mourinho isn't a bad coach. Mourinho is a winner. Yeah. Louis van Gaal isn't a bad coach. He's a winner. Ole, yes, we have question marks, but I wouldn't say he's a bad coach. I mean, yeah, Nathan will laugh because we all know Nathan and Ole. A very, very good love affair. Ralph Ragnick, right? I mean, these are not entirely bad coaches that have come in there, but we've listened to them leave the club and some of the things that they've said, and it sort of corroborates a lot of the diagnosis that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said, talking about the environment. I mean, we can go on and on about some revelations that have come, and which is why it has led to Ratcliffe trying to, get people out and bringing in a new set of people to form a new environment. We've seen the acting CEO leave, CEO has left, CFO has left, director of football has left. These are people holding key positions. How do I even frame this question? But how do we cleanse this whole institution? I mean, you've talked about 2-3 years and all of that. How do we ensure that we're able to cleanse it? Because there are people in there still leaking information. Because I still, for the life of me, don't understand how people leak an email that has been sent to employees by their owner to the media, which still tells
these are disgruntled, entitled employees. Basically, disgruntled and entitled people. We see it in our workplaces, Kwame. Let's not pretend we don't. Not everybody should know the kind of job you do, but you are into HR. I just licked it. You are into HR, human resources. You see what staff do when they are disgruntled, when they are going to lay off people backbiting, people leaking information. This is Manchester United. That's what I'm saying. We are a beast of an institution. People are playing politics. People are playing every single card that they have. People are making as much money as they can make of selling stories. Manchester United sells a lot. So that's the thing. So I don't know. Let's see. I think they have to even employ people who spy. What do they call these people? Like people who can investigators.
PIs, private investigators.
Private investigators. Thank you very much. Tap people's phones, and then find out who is doing what. Steal people. Oh God!
Let me get Nathan. What do you make of all of these things? These revelations that's coming out. One of the revelations is that the apex for the FA Cup final, traditional FA Cup final, have all been removed from them. Credit cards have also been taken away from executive leadership. I mean, what do you make of all of these drastic decisions that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is making?
I can completely understand. He is coming in from a corporate background. He has built businesses from the ground up. They've succeeded. He's made billions of those businesses. So I guess seeing that aspect, the corporate aspect of Manchester United, and he's seeing that he has to make a decision. And it's important because think about it. Of all the big clubs in the world, how many of them do we hear their inside stories? Not a lot. But when it comes to Manchester United, it's very, very easy to hear inside stories. It's so easy. So, and some of it, look, all of that is not healthy.
Yeah.
All of that is very, very unhealthy. Look, Kwame was talking about leaks and United stories. I'll tell you something. I have chats with colleague journalists in the UK, and they tell me something very interesting all the time. They say that the best stories to sell are Manchester United stories, and they generate a lot of clicks. Whether the stories are true or not, whether they are full truths or half truths, once it is Manchester United, that story will sell. So once there's that understanding, people will do all kinds of things, generate stories that are not true and all of that. But it speaks to another thing that Kwame mentioned. It just speaks to the size of Manchester United. Think about it. The team has not won a league since 2013, but it is still talked about as though it were the most dominant club in English football. That just tells you how big Manchester United is. So it's important that Sir Jim Ratcliffe tries to, and I'm happy he's doing some of these things because he will understand the size of the club. It's important that the club is whipped in line. It's important that there is a certain grip on the club by the owner, but it's more important to have the club shielded from outside noise, because these leagues, they just generate a lot of outside noise, a lot of speculation. Players are not sure of what they are doing. The manager is second guessing himself. Players form alliances with journalists. They are leaking all kinds of stories to them. all of these things add to a very tense and very toxic environment and a dressing room that doesn't make sense. So I'm happy he's doing that. But like I said, Sergeant Ratcliffe and the people at Ineos will need to be very ruthless, bold, and very precise with their decisions, and very timely as well. They need to show that they are urgent. They need to show that they are serious, and those actions need to remind people that this is a new era at Manchester United. Things must be done well. Things must be done right according to the standards of the highest level football clubs. And United should be ready to tell people who work for them, i.e. players, managers, coaches, whoever, that we are going to do things in the right way. And that must be enforced for everybody to fall in line so this club can start to take positive steps forward.
Kwame, how does Bayern's link to Erik ten Hag change the dynamics of the work that is going to happen in the summer, whether Erik ten Hag stays or not? We are ending with that.
I think it's a reasonable solution for all parties if common sense should apply. Let me try and explain what I'm trying to say. Bayern came out with a statement that they are looking at Erik ten Hag, who has coached there before, their junior teams and everything, worked with Pep Guardiola and all that, speaks perfect German and everything. And they did make another telling statement by saying they do think the reason why Erik ten Hag has struggled is because of what everybody knows, which is the fact that our club is just shit. Now, I'm not going to go into it. We are just shit. We're just a crap club at the moment. We've been a crap club for a long time. And so they wouldn't mind having Erik ten Hag coming back to them to be their manager. But this coach keeps saying, I'm not a quitter. Personally, I feel if he stays by his stance, he earns my respect by saying, you know what, despite the fact that there is a better club out there with better players and a better chance to win, I still feel like I'm the man to turn things around here. That's my respect right there, because Jose Mourinho basically went through the same thing. Louis van Gaal basically went through the same thing. They had to be fired. They never wanted to quit on the job. But this job, like I've said a billion times, is a poison chalice. Once you take it up, you're putting your reputation at a huge risk. It makes everybody say you are finished. LVG never got anything big after leaving the United job until he had to take up the Holland job to show everybody he was a very good manager, but the United was crap. Jose Mourinho has been labeled finished ever since the United job, despite doing some bit of wonders at Roma to tell everybody that there was still a bit of fight in the old dog. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't even have a job. Louis van Gaal had never. Nathan, you're laughing. He's not even had a job. Erik ten Hag had never had a bad season in his life, ever. He's always been on the upward trajectory up until he took the United job, and this is a huge downer. And everybody is now going to label him as, you know what, finished or crap and blah, blah, blah. That's what this United job is doing to many a good manager. So what I see this Bayern Munich job doing is to offer an immediate escape onto a high for a manager who has put his reputation on the line. It's a solution, a reasonable solution for all parties. Thomas Tuchel has always been in love with the United job. He's been in England before. He's worked with England. He has his own perks, his own, But I feel like he's a top manager. He's coached at the highest level, coached a lot of huge clubs. But he also comes with his own pressure and his own expectations and his own rants. And that's often a problem. We will have the Jose Mourinho thing again. Or we could possibly have the Jose Mourinho thing again, where he reminds us of our what did Jose Mourinho say? What did he say?
The second position.
Second position is probably the best thing that
he has achieved in his career.
He wasn't even lying, but at the time, I remember at the time when he said it, United fans were disgusted.
Yeah.
Tuchel is that confrontational. He can get that out of you. He can probably throw players under the bus and all those kind of things that we don't see under this particular manager. But he's a good manager, a successful manager with high expectations.
Yeah.
So if it does happen that we are going to do a swap, then I feel like it's a reasonable, amicable solution for all parties. That is, if common sense applies.
All right, Nathan. In a minute, what do you think? What do you think this dynamic? What do you think this approach by Bayern changed the dynamics of things? In a minute, our time is almost up.
Okay, I think I largely agree with Kwame. For Eric Ten Hag, it will represent an escape. That is, if he wants to go there, or if, I don't know how he feels about this situation. I don't know how he sees the situation. Maybe he'll think that if he walks away now, he might see that he walked away when it was at a low, and he didn't stay. I'm sure in his mind he wants to repair this to prove to everybody that I am a good coach after all, and that this season was a bad season.
Yeah.
But I can also understand, this bit about the escape and all of that. Personally, do I want Thomas Tuchel at Man United? No. Because of his own antics and the fact that he's confronted. But there's a part of me that kind of thinks that Manchester United needs a manager like that who shake the system a little, get players uncomfortable, and maybe that's when things can start to work out. But I hope, all of this is in hope that the right environment or the right structure is created. I believe that the more important topic should be, if you have that right environment, you can put any manager in, devoid of his strange sides or funny quirks and things, and it will work because the understanding is that the structure is in place. All the other things are just extras that make the manager unique. So for me, it's more about the structure. If there's a proper structure in place, I think any top level manager will thrive at Man United.
Guys, thank you so much. I got better in the course of the podcast. I mean,
talking about it always helps.
Yeah. I think we all needed it. We all needed it.
It's a form of therapy,
I can go. Yes, I can go to bed a lot better. If you are watching, I'm sure you should be feeling better now. Thanks, guys, for joining. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Kwame. Remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell if this is your first time. Like, comment, share with your friends. We see you on the next one on United Today. That's tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Have a great time. Bye-bye.